Have you noticed that it feels like almost everyone is saying the same thing lately? Life has gotten way too expensive. From sky-high rent and grocery bills to people working full-time and still struggling to pay the basics, more Americans are opening up on social media about what they're really going through. In today's video, we're checking out some of the most talked about videos and reactions as people share their financial struggles, debate what's causing the cost of living crisis, and reveal just how difficult it has become to stay afloat. Before we jump in, let me know in the comments, what's one expense that has become almost impossible for you to keep up with? Thanks so much for watching, and let's get into it.
A lot of Americans out here are working all the time. They basically have sold their entire lives for another dollar. Yet people can barely get by. People are getting to a point where they literally can't pay their bills anymore. And as long as the wages at these employers continue to stay stagnant, as long as the cost of living keeps going up, you're gonna see more people crashing out. You're gonna see more people getting angry. You're gonna see more people resorting to crimes and violence because this shit isn't sustainable. Like, we're all literally forced to work ourselves to death for absolutely no reward. And people can only carry the stress and the unbearable weight for so fucking long until people, quote unquote, go crazy. It's like, I quite literally understand why people are going insane, because it's like everybody has a limit, and I feel like there's a lot of Americans out here that have been completely pushed past their limits. Then you wonder why we're all mean and on edge, and why we hate each other, because it's not normal to work like a dog, fall further behind, don't know how you're going to make ends meet day in and day out, don't even know where your next meal is going to come from. We should be rising up. It technically is our constitutional duty to overthrow our administration if they are too corrupt. They want us to shut up and be quiet, but now is the time to get loud and speak out and say this shit isn't normal and this shit isn't okay.
It's being reported that 40% of American adults are not working right now. Now, within this 40%, that may include retired people, students that choose not to work, caregivers that work at home, anybody that for any reason may not be in the workforce. I say that to give clarity, but I don't think this erases the direness of where we are at this moment. Nearly 4 in every 10 adults is without work right now. Something tells me that many of those without work right now are not choosing to be unemployed. There's simply no work to be hired for. Jobs are more likely to put open an application for your data and to take the ideas you put in the application than they are to hire you for the position. Internal selection is at an all-time high. Sometimes it can feel like the interviewing process for certain jobs are a humiliation ritual. And according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, around 9 million people were laid off in just the first 5 months of 2026 alone. When layoffs happen, workers that still have jobs are even more exploited because the work is still there and the labor force is diminished. If this doesn't tell you anything now more than ever, go after your passion, because eventually there will be no jobs to get. The only job you'll have now is the one you create for yourself.
America has become completely unaffordable, and I don't know why more people are not talking about this. Half of America doesn't even have a savings, rent is insane, healthcare is a luxury, and somehow the narrative is still people are just bad with money. Like, what money? People are working full-time. Most people have 2 to 3 jobs anymore because you have to. At what point do we stop blaming the people and just accept the fact that the cost of living has simply just outpaced reality? Because everything is this expensive, you have to know exactly where all of your money is going anymore. Like, a budget is just simply a necessity. You have to have one. Started using a budgeting app like mine to figure out where all of my money is going, but it does not make up for the fact that America is too expensive to live in anymore. If you're struggling, you are not alone.
We're here again. We're here again. I'm a licensed therapist of 22 years, and things in the US couldn't possibly be worse. Let me give you an example, okay? So today I happened to be sitting in my own waiting room. I own a group practice, and there were probably 8 to 9 people sitting in the waiting room waiting for their appointments. And one person happened to start a conversation, which almost never happens in the waiting room. Most people just sit there kind of silently waiting for their clinician. But this person started off a conversation, and it sparked this whole thing about how depressed and anxious and broke everyone is. And that therapy, while great, and helpful and wonderful is barely scratching the surface. I could relate to everything that everybody was saying in my waiting room. Everything is bad, and I'm not exaggerating. This is not hyperbolic. Our healthcare, our taxes, our grocery prices, gas costs are unaffordable. We cannot afford to live in this country unless you're in the top percent. The average person in the US cannot afford to exist. I'm not totally sure how we dig out of this hole. All I know is that we sounded the alarm bells. We are here in spite of that. And it is awful. It's awful.
This is wild, and I want to make sure you don't miss it. We all know that Donald Trump said, on day one, I'm going to get prices down for Americans, right? Look at what's happening now. This is a brand new poll from The Guardian. It just came out today. Half of Americans struggle to afford groceries and gas. Half of Americans. Guardian calls this a grim portrait of cost of living crisis and says that about 57% of polled Americans also believe the economy is worsening, because it is. The poll also says that 95% of Americans now believe the US is suffering an affordability crisis. 95%! And this is not just Democrats, y'all. Pessimism about the economy has increased for all Americans of all parties. Look at that, just whoop, for everyone. In February, 22% of Republicans said the economy was getting worse. Now that's up to 38% of them, of Republicans. Then they asked people whether they thought jobs in their area were disappearing. Look at rural Americans. 41% of them say good job opportunities in their local area are disappearing. By the way, when it comes to rural Americans, 64% of them now say the economy is getting worse, compared with 46% who said that in February. And again, look at these specific numbers. The percentage who responded they are having trouble affording gas, 52%, groceries, 51%, loan payments, 46%, utilities, 46%. Oh, and don't forget, half of those polled said they're struggling to afford their debt, including student loan debt. This is the economy after a year and a half of Donald Trump and the Republicans in full control. But don't worry, because Donald Trump is on the job, if you consider the job building a new helipad on the White House lawn.
Beautiful helipad. And it's got the seal of the White House on it in granite, in carved granite. It's really a beautiful thing.
A beautiful thing, he says. But as for this, oh well, he doesn't have an opinion about it at all, because as far as he's concerned, it's not true, it's not real, and your struggles are fake news. And if you're not mad about that, you should be extremely.